Hi, good morning. This is Dr. Priyadarshini, Assistant Professor, Department of English, KCS Kasinada College. Today, we are going to see the work written by T.S. Eliot, Traditional and Individual Talent. T.S. Eliot stands as a towering figure in the field of modern literary criticism. He is a famous literary critic. In this particular work, Traditional and Individual Talent, T.S. Eliot analyzes what is true criticism, who is a true critic, and he also gives us impersonal theory of poetry, and also he explains in detail what is objective correlative in this particular work. To sum up, we can say in this work, Eliot describes about what is tradition in poetry and how it is formed and how it affects present poetry and how the tradition is modified continuously by the contribution of living poets. T.S. Eliot also talks about the impersonality of poetry and the criticism and appreciation of poetry. He gives a new angle to the sense of personality of a poet in a poem through his work Traditional and Individual Talents. Let us go into the analysis of the work. T.S. Eliot was born in St. Louis on September 6, 1888. He spent his first 18 years of his life in St. Louis, and then he went to Harvard University. In 1910, he left for US. He did his UG and Masters at Harvard University, and then he spent a year in Paris. He returned to Harvard to pursue his doctorate in philosophy. After completing his doctorate, he settled in England in 1914. He began his career as a teacher in London, and then he worked in the bank for some time. T.S. Eliot, when he was in London, he came under the influence of his contemporary poet Ezra Pound, who recognized his genius at once and assisted him in his most notable work, The Love Song of Alfred Prufrock, in 1915. And then T.S. Eliot published his first collection of poems called Prufrock and Other Observations in the year 1917. After publishing this particular work, he became famous as a poet, and he was considered as one of the leading poets of his time. In 1922, when he published Wasteland, after publishing Wasteland, he was considered as a genius of 20th century and also a poetic sensation. Eliot has become the dominant figure in poetry as well as in literary criticism. His poems, in many respects, articulated the disillusionment of the younger generation, especially after the impact of First World War, and how the values and conventions were deteriorated both in the literary and in the social arena, especially during the Victorian age. He reflected it in most of his poems. The Wasteland is the best example of it. T.S. Eliot is not only a poet and a critic, he is also a famous playwright who has written many plays like Murder in the Cathedral, The Family Reunion, The Cocktail Party. He has received Nobel Prize for Literature in 1948. He is a critic who had a great impact on contemporary literary taste. Being a Orthodox Christian, he has become an conservative in the end. He died in London on Jan 4, 1965. After the brief introduction into his life and his works, let us go into the critical work, the traditional and individual talent, in which he brings out his theory of poetry. Traditional individual talent was first published in the magazine Egoist in the year 1919. T.S. Eliot is a towering figure in the field of modern literary criticism. His famous works, The Sacred Wood, Selected Essays, The Use of Poetry and the Use of Criticism, are some of his most important works in the field of criticism. Eliot, in most of his works, pleads for some kind of order in art and as well as in criticism. As a critic, he wants to combine literary and social criticism. He may be called as the Arnold of 20th century. English criticism, according to Eliot, was a camp of warring factions for and against classism and romanticism. Eliot wants the critical issue is quite different. He says, it is not what comes as natural or what comes easy to us, but criticism is what is right according to T.S. Eliot. So at the beginning of traditional and individual talent, T.S. Eliot talks about who is a critic and how should be his opinion. He says, a critic is often prone to defy all outside authority when they give his own assessment. He says, sometimes they don't have standards to do so. Hence, instead of facts, they just give their opinions. But T.S. Eliot says, a function of criticism is to find facts, and the critic must have some outside norms based upon tradition and accumulated wisdom. So, if facts are what the critique is after, his approach must be objective. He must have a highly developed sense of fact, and a critic must know what is comparison and also what is analysis, because comparison will show him how the present modifies the past tradition and is in turn modified by it, and the analysis will show him the facts as they are. So as a critic, he should know what is comparison and as well as what is analysis according to T.S. Eliot. In this particular work, he analyzes, or what he calls is what is a true criticism then? He says, is it interpretation? No. He totally rejects interpretation as criticism. He says, when a critic is interpreting a text, there the critique is not truly objective, he says. He says the critic will put his own views in interpreting a text. Then he puts up, is it impressionism? Is criticism? He even rejects Impressionism as criticism. He says, even in the impressions where you project only the object, other impressions are necessarily mixed in expression. It is thus the critic's view of the object and not an objective view. Eliot stands for the most highly organized form of intellectual activity. He calls it as emotions. He says, a critic should not judge a work, he should elucidate it. He should leave the part of judging to the reader. Only the reader should judge the work, not the critic should judge the work. He brings out this point in his work. T.S. Eliot says, a true criticism should be an scientific inquiry into a work of art. According to T. Eliot, Aristotle is an ideal critic. He recommends Aristotle's cool and objective analysis of a work of art. He says he is the best critique. He totally rejects subjective criticism. He says, it is only a critique's whim. It is a new kind of art rather than an elucidation of a work under discussion. Even he says, an author to compile his own work is a critical labor, because he says, author selects his work and then he rejects it, he manipulates the details. So the trained author's criticism can use his own work, which is also a very important one. The author used in this particular sense is the best critique of the work concerned, he feels. Eliot explains his theory of poetry. I quote, the feeling or emotion of vision resulting from the poem is something different from the feeling or emotion or vision in the mind of the poet. Unquote. Thus, the poet and the poem are two different things according to Eliot. He says, a poet is molded not only by the present but also from the past, because the past is the present for the author. So when we read the important works which was written by great poets, they echo the influence of dead poets and their ancestors in their work. A poet receives the traditional impulses from the past. At the same time, he alters them considerably through the force of his individuality. The past and the present are fused together to bring a new work. According to Eliot, the poet's personality doesn't have any connection with the poem. A poet becomes great not because he puts his own personality into his work, because he has more to say than his personality. He says, the feelings may or may not be his own. His mind will combine them into new shapes. I quote, impression and experience which are important for a man may take no place in poetry, and those which become important in the poetry may play a quite negligible part in the personality. Unquote. He has said it in Tradition and Individual Talent. We can say that he points out that poetry is not an expression of personality but an escape from personality. He says the emotion of art is impersonal. He celebrates objective kind of poetry which is detached. He says, a poetry is not a turning loose of emotion, but it is an escape from emotion. So, a honest criticism should center around not the poet but round his poetry. We can say that in this particular work, he is totally against subjective poetry, especially against Wordsworth. Wordsworth has defined poetry as poetry is a spontaneous overflow of powerful emotions collected in tranquility. In this particular work, critical work, T.S. Eliot totally rejects subjective criticism or romanticism, we can. In this particular work, Eliot also explains what is objective correlative. Objective correlative is nothing but a fact or an idea that is closely related to or depends on another fact or idea. He relates it to poetry. He says, emotion in poetry is not just simply transmitted from the poet's mind to the reader's mind. It has to be transformed into something concrete to affect the reader's mind. That an external equivalent through which the writer's emotions will seep into the reader's mind are expressed through objects or incidents. He even adds, symbols can work as objective correlatives. So the emotion of joy or sorrow or pleasure is expressed through some concrete symbol. Eliot explains what is disassociation of sensibility. A poetic sensibility, according to Eliot, is a recreation of thoughts into feelings. So the thoughts turn themselves into feelings, and the feelings use symbols, objective correlatives, to arouse similar feelings in the mind of the reader. So the transformation of thought into feelings is called as poetic sensibility. When the thought fails to transform into feelings, it results in very poor poetry according to Eliot. And he says that is disassociation of sensibility. So the poet must think and he must also feel his thoughts to bring best poetry according to Eliot. To sum up, we can say Eliot wants the critic to have a scientific mind, and he wants people to follow Aristotle because according to him he is a classicist and also a best critic. At the same time, he does not want to follow neoclassical criticism or subjective criticism. He does not want authors to be amputated by the canons of dead critics. Eliot represents that art represents both past and the present as modified by the present. According to him, poetry is a superior amusement. He admits the pleasure-giving aspect of poetry is the most important one and it should entertain people. At the same time, he also feels there are people who appreciate expression of sincere emotions and technical excellence. But only the very few will know that expression is significant emotion which arise from the poem, not from the poet. The emotion of art is impersonal, so the poet must surrender himself to the work to be done. To conclude, we can say, in this work, Traditional Individual Talent, Eliot has described how a tradition in poetry is formed, how it affects present poetry, and how the tradition is modified continually by the contribution of living poets. The past has a clear-cut effect on the present. He also talks about impersonality of poetry and the criticism and appreciation of poetry. Through this particular work, he has given a new slant to the sense of the personality of a poet in a poem. Thank you for listening and watching it.